Hello there, welcome to the Football Bloc. My name is Brandon, and today we're going to look back at all the matches from Matchday 2 of the 2022 World Cup group stage and see how my predictions went. If that sounds interesting, then let's hop right into it. So Matchday 2 has come to a close. We've had some pretty interesting games, some high-scoring games, some very low-scoring games, and everything else in the middle. So let's take a look back and see how my predictions went. So we start off here with Group B and Group A's matches from last Friday. Wales versus Iran. Now, this one was interesting because obviously both these teams are heading into these matches with very different World Cup campaigns up until this point. Wales came into it with, a draw against the U.S. They didn't really play the best, but they were able to hold on for a draw versus Iran that got completely flattened by England, 6-2. Now, in my opinion, I think the reason that happened was because of all the political backdrop, because obviously Iran is better than 6-2, and in this match here correctly reflected that, as I thought they were the better team, pretty convincingly so throughout the entirety of the match. Now, Wales made it very tough for them. Wales is that kind of team that's just going to sit back with a low block. But once Hennessy got the red card, I thought that Iran had total control. They scored those two late goals. I was happy to see them finally rebound after that awful showing they had against England. But yeah, Wales is not looking too good versus Iran are actually in a decent position. They have momentum in their favor. Now, my prediction was actually the complete opposite of this. I thought that Wales would win 2-0. I thought that Iran's poor form, all that just, instability in their locker room is going to carry on to the next game. But credit to them, they rebounded. Now, in the next game, we had Qatar versus Senegal. Now, this game, look, I gave Qatar a chance. I said that they would win 2-1. I thought that they would rebound after their pretty disappointing opening performance in the first match of the World Cup. On the other hand, I thought Senegal looked a little lost up front without Sadio Mane. And I have to say, I think Senegal overall had a good performance, but Qatar was so disappointing, man. Like, this Qatar team, they're a good team. I've seen them, as I said before on this channel numerous times before, they've been playing in all these big tournaments, and they've done well. But this World Cup, I think the limelight, I think all the pressure of them being the host nation, this first ever World Cup performances came crashing down on them. Now, in all fairness, Qatar should have had a penalty in the first half. Akram Afif got taken down, but the ref didn't give it for whatever weird reason. But at the end of the day, Senegal put themselves in a decent spot, and Qatar are the first country to get eliminated from this World Cup. This is the worst performance of a host nation at the World Cup, statistically so. Unfortunate for them. Next up, we have Netherlands versus Ecuador, and in this match, my prediction actually got 100% correct on this one. I said it'd be 1-1. That's what ended up happening. I thought Netherlands came out the gate swinging. Gakpo, who's been having a great tournament, he scored a very nice goal. But from that moment on, Ecuador just got, more and more comfortable in themselves. They grew into the game, and then from pretty much the end of the first half until the rest of the game, Ecuador was the better team, and I think that they kind of got unlucky. They probably should have won this game. Plata had a wonderful shot that cannoned off the crossbar. And yeah, Ecuador looked to be the surprise team this tournament. I mean, Enner Valencia, 3 goals this World Cup. He scored 6 of Ecuador's last 6 World Cup goals. He is in fire form, absolute fire, which is crazy because, he's a guy that he's had a very long and storied career, but he looks to be kind of on the way out, kind of, getting on in age, but he's still showing up for his country in the big moments. Really exciting game to watch there. Next, we have my team. We got the USA versus England. Now, I'm actually a little mad at myself because I didn't listen to my heart. I listened to my head, and I said England would win 2-1, and that match ended up being 0-0. Yet another 0-0 draw, but I thought this one was actually a pretty exciting game. But the U.S. was pretty much a better team. Like, Christian Pulisic had hit the crossbar. There were some really close shots that the U.S. had there, and save for a few early chances in the first half, the beginning of the first half, England looked completely lost in front of goal. They looked really subpar. I thought that the chains had been released after England dropped 6 goals on Iran, but now England just reverted to the old same very pragmatic, very defensive Southgate style, which doesn't really suit this crop of players, which is full of a bunch of attacking talent. I thought this was overall a great result for the U.S. It's just a shame that we weren't able to get a result in the opening match, because now we go into the last game with we need a win against Iran. But, overall, just if you look at this game at face value, a 0-0 draw with England, I think that's a pretty good result. England has yet to beat us at the World Cup. So, I'm a little mad about my prediction, but hey, I'm happy with how the U.S. played. All right, so now let's look on to the next quartet of matches. First off, we have Tunisia versus Australia, which for the most part was kind of a boring game. Both these teams are some of the worst teams at the World Cup, if I'm being perfectly honest. No disrespect to people from Tunisia or Australia. And my prediction, I said that Tunisia would win 1-0, and I got the score right, but I got the wrong team winning. Australia scored a really nice header early on, and then Tunisia, they defend well enough, but they have nothing going for them up top. Versus Australia, I think they lack talent, but the team mentality is there. They are a team that, will press you, that will try to attack. Now, obviously, they'll fall short against a team like France, but against Tunisia, I thought this was overall a pretty good performance. And actually, Australia is in a pretty decent position now because they have to go up against Denmark, who we'll talk about in a bit. And Denmark also look lost for goal. So if a crazy result happens, Australia could find themselves in the knockout round. Next up, we have Poland versus Saudi Arabia. And this match, I said that Poland would lose 1-0 to Saudi Arabia, considering how resolute Saudi Arabia was against Argentina, that with that shock results in their first match. And Poland surprised me. Poland came out, surprised 2-0 winners, and I thought that Saudi Arabia actually was the better team. I thought that they were the ones that deserved to win, but Poland, it just seemed like they took their chances more clinically. Lewandowski finally got his first World Cup goal. Saudi Arabia missed a penalty as well. I thought, like I said, the performance favored Saudi Arabia, but, it's hairline margins. These games come down to hairline margin. And Poland, despite not really playing all that well their past 2 games, find themselves top of the group. And who knows what's going to happen going into the last match day. Next up, we have France versus Denmark. And this match, I said was going to be a 0-0 draw. I've been expecting a lot of Denmark this tournament, and their first game was disappointing, but I thought they would just continue to grow, because a similar thing happened at the Euros as well, for different reasons obviously. But I gotta say, Denmark has been really disappointing this tournament. There's a chance they don't make it out of the group stage, as I just said before with Australia. My prediction was completely wrong. France came away with a 2-1 win, a very deserved win. I thought that France, they looked convincing, they looked good. Mbappe in particular was really good, and Rabiot as well. Rabiot has been surprisingly great in the midfield. Denmark has some serious issues up top. They just cannot score. In fact, the only goal they scored here was off corner, and it was more so from poor marking from France. Now, that does say a little bit about France. Like, they do have weaknesses. Obviously, they conceded that goal against Australia. They conceded a goal here. So, they're looking great in terms of midfield and attack, but going back, there are some weaknesses that can be exploited. On to the last match of the quartet, we have Argentina versus Mexico. Now, my prediction, I said Argentina would just completely flatten Mexico 4-0. And if you look at the match from maybe the 65th to 70th minute to the end, that fits, that type of performance fits. But from the first half up until the 60th, 70th minute, this game was really, really close. I mean, I thought that Argentina, they looked a little rattled. They looked a little shell-shocked, obviously after their shock loss against Saudi Arabia. They didn't look bad, but they just looked a little too afraid to lose, whereas Mexico was just holding on for that draw. And credit to them, they defended really well up until, the manager, Tata Martino, made some odd changes with the substitutions. And then, of course, it's all down to Messi, though. Once Messi scored that first goal, just a moment of brilliance, I think it all came crashing down for Mexico there. Mexico does have some serious problems up top. Like, we've been seeing this with a lot of teams. They just don't have anyone who's going to be putting in the goals. I wouldn't be surprised if Mexico get eliminated from this World Cup without scoring a single goal. That's how bad it is. And it's a shame because the rest of the team is okay. It's particularly in defense. They're defending well, but they just can't put anything in the net. And, Argentina, I think, will grow from this. Enzo Fernandez had a wonderful performance after he got subbed on. And hopefully, from an Argentinian point of view, they carry this form over into the next match and then the rest of the tournament. Anyway, let's move on to the next quartet of matches. We have Japan versus Costa Rica. Now, this game was so strange. My prediction was that Japan was going to slap Costa Rica 3-0. Costa Rica got completely destroyed, 7-0 by Spain in the last round, whereas Japan surprised everyone and beat Germany. Now, going back in hindsight, I think Japan did get a little lucky. Germany kind of shot themselves in the foot, whereas Japan just took their chances. But in this match, I feel like Japan kind of underestimated Costa Rica. They made 5 changes to the lineup, which was not a wise decision at all. And they dominated the possession, they dominated the chances, but they didn't look that convincing, if I'm being perfectly honest. And then Costa Rica had one shot. It was a very nice shot from Fuller. And it curled into the top corner, and now Costa Rica come away with a 1-0 win, and they have 3 points. My prediction was completely wrong. I didn't anticipate Japan to underestimate Costa Rica like this. Next, we move on to Belgium versus Morocco. And this match, I feel so disappointed in myself because on numerous occasions I predicted Belgium to be a flop team. I even said that they're going to be a flop team this tournament. And yet I went against that prediction for this particular match and said that they would beat Morocco because I didn't really have faith that Morocco was going to be able to exploit their weaknesses. But I was completely wrong. I thought Morocco played amazing, actually. Belgium looked terrible. But on the other hand, Morocco looked really, really good. They improved upon their decent performance against Croatia. They really showed Belgium how to play football. It was interesting. The goals that they scored off of free kicks and things like that. But Belgium just looked so slow. They looked lethargic. They played virtually the same way they played against Canada, but Morocco was able to capitalize on those chances, unlike Canada, unfortunately. Now, speaking of Canada, and again, unfortunately, Canada got completely destroyed 4-1 by Croatia. It's a shame to see Canada go out like this, considering how well they played against Belgium despite not winning. They become the second team to be eliminated from this World Cup. I thought Croatia, from their point of view, they started off the game pretty poorly, but they very quickly regained control. Kramaric had a great game. He scored a double, and I'm happy for Canada that Alphonso Davies scored, but after that first 5 minutes, they just look completely out of depth. This team is very young, very inexperienced, so it makes sense. Motivation plays a big part, and it probably takes a lot out of you, especially from a mental point of view, where you outplay Belgium, one of the biggest teams in the world, but then still come away with a loss. Heading into this match, they were probably afraid that the same thing was going to happen, despite taking that lead. And in the end, it did, with the only difference being that Canada did not play nearly as well as they did against Belgium. My prediction was that it was going to be a 2-2 draw. I predicted that there'd be a lot of goals. And there was a lot of goals, but it wasn't equally dispersed between both teams. It was Croatia coming away with a very one-sided victory. Then we have Spain versus Germany, which I did a full video on. My prediction was that Spain was going to win 3-1. I thought that they would come out with a statement win. That ultimately didn't happen. I thought they were very good up until about maybe the 70th minute. Because then Germany finally subbed on Füllkrug, and they had a striker, and Germany plays so much better with a striker, no matter who that guy is. If they have someone playing in that number 9 role, completely changes the dynamic of the team. And now, Spain, I'm slightly disappointed that they didn't, put the nails to Germany, but still, it was, for the most part, a good performance, which they were building upon their great performance against Costa Rica. And then Germany put themselves in a good position to qualify for the knockout round. But I don't see this German team really going that far. I mean, of course, anything could happen, but still, they look to have some very visible flaws. Now let's move on to the final quartet of matches, and we had possibly, just from an objective point of view in terms of the play on the field, the most exciting game of the bunch, and that was Cameroon versus Serbia, which ended up as a 3-3 draw. Now, my prediction was that Serbia was going to come away with a pretty comfortable 2-0 win, and it was looking like that was going to be pretty much the story of the match. Cameroon scored first, but I got to be honest, it was a very lucky goal. And then Serbia took complete control. They had a 3-0 lead, and then Abubakar got subbed on, and then Abubakar completely saved Cameroon. He scored a beautiful chip, and then he assisted a goal for Choupo-Moting. I got to say I'm disappointed in Serbia's defense because the way their attack played, just look at the build-up for that third goal that Mitrovic put in. It was beautiful. The Serbian team is very, very talented, but they just lack composure, especially in the second half. Versus Cameroon, this is kind of what I've expected from Cameroon going into the tournament. Their defense is pretty weak, but they're a team that just likes to play dynamic and open football. They like to go forward and they try to score. And credit to them for clawing back to a draw. Now, obviously, this result favors Serbia more than it does Cameroon. Cameroon looks like they're pretty much out of it, and unless they're able to conjure up an absolute shock against Brazil or something like that. Now, Serbia has to defeat Switzerland, which has some political connotations to it, considering what happened at the last World Cup. Next we go on to South Korea versus Ghana, and this game was a really exciting game to watch. South Korea, I thought that they were unlucky not to grab another draw like the 3-3 match we just looked at. But Ghana proves that while they may not be the most talented, they have determination, they have grit, they have a lot of ambition. And then Korea does have some weaknesses in their defense, but overall, I thought both teams actually played well. It was a fun game to watch, and there's got to be a winner. And on the end of the day, Ghana comes away with the 3 points. My prediction was that South Korea was going to win 2-1, but like I said, I think this game probably could have gone either way. But in the end, Ghana is the one that comes away with the points. Then we have Brazil versus Switzerland. In this game, I think Brazil is a completely different team without Neymar in terms of attack, because their attack just looked flat. On the other hand, though, their defense was amazing. It's interesting because Brazil's biggest strength, as it seems for these past 2 games, is actually their defense. They completely shut down both Serbia and Switzerland. Neither team really had any clear-cut chances against them. But going forward, Brazil looked a little flat, which it's kind of disappointing considering they brought 9 forwards to this tournament, and all of them are all world-class players. They shouldn't be relying on Neymar that much. Now, again, we're early on. Who knows what's going to happen as the tournament progresses, and Neymar should be back from his injury. But still, beautiful goal from Casemiro. Obviously, Richarlison had that beautiful goal in the last match, which was a goal of the tournament contender, but this one from Casemiro, that really nice absolute rocket of a volley into the top corner after a nice flick pass from, I think it was Rodrigo. That's also now a contender for a goal of the tournament. Now, the final match we're looking at here, Portugal versus Uruguay, which in my opinion was an absolutely, one of the most fun games to watch this tournament. Portugal made a statement win here. I thought that the match was going to be a stalemate. I thought it was going to be a 0-0 draw. I thought that neither team was really going to be able to get the edge over each other, but I was wrong because I think Diego Alonso, the coach of Uruguay, made some mistakes with the way that he handled his formation. Starting out, he played a back 5, which is unusual for his style of play. And I think Portugal, on the other hand, everything clicked. Ronaldo looked great. Fernandes looked great as well. The whole team was looking really good. And it's really interesting because going into the second half, Portugal got the goal. Ronaldo came up for the header. He missed the ball. There's some controversy over who is claiming it or not. I think Bruno is the one that it's ultimately going to go to. But still, Ronaldo created that goal because him going for the header obviously changed the trajectory of Rachet, the goalkeeper. But after that, Uruguay made some changes, and they subbed on Pelistri, they subbed on De Arrascaeta, and then Portugal also made some changes, but their changes actually detracted from the team. I thought Rafael Leao came on, and despite having such a great performance off the bench in the last match, he looked a little slow, a little tired in this game versus, when Pelistri and De Arrascaeta and then later Suarez came on, Uruguay had some new life breathed into them, and they were really close. They almost came to an equalizer after Maxi Gomez had a shot that cannoned off the post. But in the end of the day, Portugal hit them on the counter. They got a penalty. Bruno scored 2-0. That's the game. I think Uruguay didn't necessarily play bad, But I think overall, despite having that little lapse in the second half, Portugal looked to be a very good team heading into the next round of group stage matches and into the knockout round as they qualified directly along with Brazil and France. Now, Uruguay have a tasty matchup against Ghana for deciding who's going to go through second place. And I'm sure you guys all remember the history between Uruguay and Ghana. But anyway, guys, that has been my reaction to my predictions for all of the matches in Matchday 2 of the 2022 World Cup group stage. Let me know what you think. Let me know how your predictions went. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with a friend. But anyway, guys, my name is Brandon. Hope you guys have a nice rest of your night.